Thank you so much for being here. Ed is just so thankful for what God is doing. It's very hard to transition from all of that to this. So let me take a breath for a second. My name's Dale, if I haven't met you. They let me work here. And just seeing what God has been doing and is doing this past few years, it is mind-blowing. And if you're here and you're new today and you're like, I'm just here to support about, I just want you to feel blessed today. That you are with a group of people striving to be the kind of church that you didn't think existed. That we are not here for ourselves, but we are here to link arms and to be a different kind of space. So you're here on a unique Sunday. We have a rhythm here in March where we have a beautiful night and we cast vision and ideas for the year. And then I find it incredibly valuable to hold myself accountable and to like mid-year give an update around those things. But this isn't just a long announcement. This is hopefully an accelerant for all of us. But let me start here. A few weeks ago, there was a music festival in San Francisco. It takes place every year, and it is called Outside Lands. Have you heard of it? This idea, yes, Jim, you have heard of it, because you work for the Bay Area News Group as a music critic, and it's your job to have heard of it. There you go. It is called Outside Lands, and I don't know if you've ever thought twice about why is this called Outside Lands. Well, the reality is, if you look at an old map of San Francisco, like 1850s or so, there is a section of the city that has been developed, and then a large part of the city stretching to the ocean that really was referred to as the Great Sand Bank or a dreary desert, or on some maps, simply called the Outside Lands. Pretty much the space of land in San Francisco that they saw no value, no space, nothing could grow there. It was really like the forbidden land, like we can't go that far, if you could imagine. Now, the city leaders at the time had this idea of building Golden Gate Park. And they thought, we want to build like a world-class park like they have in New York City with Central Park. So they actually brought out the guy who oversaw the building of Central Park, this pristine thing, and he came and showed up and he said, oh, no. Nothing will ever grow here. Nothing can happen here. It's just sand dunes. There is no future. Now, the city leaders of San Francisco were incredibly stubborn. They're like, we disagree. So they put it out for a bid, and this guy took the bid, and he said, I'm going to see what can happen. Now, because there was unresidential there, and it was not really developed, they had a camp out there to figure it out. The story goes like this. Whether this part is true or not, there's a little bit of truth in it, I guess. They had horses. They were riding horseback. Every horse had a bucket of barley on them because they just needed to eat. And the story goes like this, that a bucket of barley spilled onto a sand dune. Now, seeds on a dune need something else to accelerate the growth. Any idea what that is? I have no idea what you just said, but manure is the answer. I've wanted for years to use the word manure in a sermon. Check. Supposedly, the horse relieved himself upon the barley, and they moved along, and a few days later, they came back and saw things sprouting. They saw it is possible for life to happen here. As they went along, they found a family. They were known as the Phila-something family. They gave a lot of things away. They were incredibly successful. And they realized, hey, we can give extra of the things we're growing, the trees, the things from barley. So they had this provision of trees and from this family who was willing to give it away. They had still an issue, though. How do we get tens of thousands of pounds of manure out here. I did it again, twice in one sermon. The reality was this. There was a group of people back in the 1850s who were known as the street sweepers. They followed behind the horse and buggy, and this is a true story. They would follow along, and as the horses did their deal, they would clean it up. And at the end of the day, they started to bring to this undeveloped outside lands what they had. And over some periods of time, by simply people giving from a space of what they had, a place of life began. And what we know today is Golden Gate Park, that is known in the music festival as Outside Lands, was once a place known as a dreary desert that people rejected, became a place of life, a place of gathering, a place of belonging, a place where creative beauty takes over, simply by people giving of what they had. We do mark this day as our mid-year celebration to celebrate and talk about all the creative beauty and the power of God. And last March, we talked about 4 things that we wanted to focus on at a church, as well as see if this could blossom. 4 things were this: an annual project, desiring to fulfill a commitment we made to this ministry in Ethiopia years ago. Secondly, a mobilized church. Third, to become a storytelling church. And fourth, our campus development. Let me start with the second one. To be a mobilized church. The value around being in a mobilized church or being a part of something that moves becomes more than just a place you come to gather. It becomes about being more than just a place that you attend. Now, we can easily talk about this, but the idea was, how do we make this happen? You see, when Jesus himself talked about church, he used phrases like, the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. That doesn't sound like a place you just attend. A place where you're like, I like the music here, or I like this better here, or I like this. This sounds like a place that is mobilized. Because the implication here is that it's not a church that hides behind its own walls, the gates, that the enemy tries to bang down. The implication here is that the church moves out to gain more ground. Now, it's not more ground against people, because people are not our enemy. It is the devil that is our enemy. And we so often get that mixed up. We think us, them. It isn't us, them. It is us against the darkest powers of this world. Movement of the church is not a human political endeavor, but it's a kingdom endeavor following whom? Jesus is the right answer there. When in doubt, just say Jesus Bible Church. You're probably on track. Because life in God's kingdom is not only what God is doing in you and for you, but what he wants to do through you. In other words, we are not only the object of blessing, but my friends, we are the conduit of blessing. Just pause for a second. If I've lost you already, pause here. We are not only the object of blessing, though God is greatly interested in blessing you, but we are also the conduit of blessing. It means it can't just end with us. When he was describing the kingdom life and purpose that I'm talking about, Jesus explained it like this. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went out and sold all that he had, and he bought that field. This is a wild story, but simply what it's saying is this man found something that was beyond what he could believe was possible, so he let go of everything that he thought was real and went all in on the kingdom of God. Jesus is like, that's what it's like. That's what my church should be like. Mobilization is taking that which we have discovered, a treasure in a field, and being a conduit of that treasure to other people. Where you work, where you live. So a question I have for you. What have you received that another person needs? What have you received that another person needs? That is the mobilized church. Every week, and we did it today, we read our generosity creed, and there's this line in the generosity creed that says this: we desire to be rich in good deeds. And what? Willing to share all that we have, laying up for ourselves treasure that will not decay, but will shine in the age to come. This is the church mobilized, moving forward. There's so many ways that we'll continue to work on this, because this is truly our renewing and our rebuilding. But one of them is this, is to pray for each other, is to show up for each other. As Christy said a few weeks ago, there'll be a community that contends for each other. And here is one of the really tangible ways we are going to do this. It is on your card. Every link that I have today is on your card. We have been in contact and communication with the developers of an app called the Echo Prayer app. And they have a unique way on this app to have a couple of feeds that are distinct and only for us. There's 3 things that we're inviting everybody in to do this app, because it's very different than just an email showing up in your box that's listed with 30 other emails you got that you have a tendency to look at them all the same way. But there's an app that we're going to use, and it has an opportunity for one, share your prayer requests. One of the biggest struggles any church has in modern day is people being open to share that they have a need in their life. And you do that when you hold stuff to yourself. You know who is the most excited? The enemy goes, keep it to yourself. The kingdom says, let somebody partner with you. There's a super easy way. You open the app, you click, you type in your prayer request, and it gets sent out. There's a second way. We're going to have a feed on it that says, pray now. What does pray now mean? What do you guys think pray now means? Now. Some are like, define now. Now. These are moments that happen occasionally throughout the year. This isn't like every week, but it's moments throughout the year where something is happening. Something significant. Somebody is in trouble. Somebody is rushing to the hospital. I shared with you this back in March. There was a day last year, a few days before Christmas Eve, which was like super great timing for me, where I was in excruciating pain. I had no idea what was going on. I'm on the floor of my bedroom, like in misery. And being a good man, Lisa came home and goes, we're going to the hospital. I go, I can't. I need to go to church, something. And she's like, no, we're going to the hospital. I'm like, I'm a real man, as I'm crying on the floor in agony and pain. She's driving me to the hospital. It hurts so bad, my back and my legs. I'm on all fours in the back of the car, wondering what the person next to me was, in the car. I believe Lisa texted some people to pray for me, and this is the experience I want you all to have. Not the pain and agony part, if you're wondering. There was suddenly this moment where it was like, whew. And it was a shadow of a doubt. I'm like, someone's praying for me right now. And I felt the Spirit, I felt breath. I'm like, Lisa, I'm good. And then apparently the person stopped praying because it all came back. I mean, they had things to do. The idea is this, and the reality is this is a high level. Would love everybody who calls Calvary home to be on this spot that, hey, I get alerted when something's happening. I can just imagine if someone emergency is happening, in a car crash or race in the hospital, I find out about it because I'm the one who will initiate this. All of a sudden, 300 or 400 people get an alert. Pray for this person right now. Can you imagine the church mobilized like that? What you'll get is a text and say, hey, there's a new update. There's a prayer now thing. I'm going to text you, let you know, but it's something you need to opt in. We're not just going to send out random texts. There's a third way of the mobilized church, and we call it daily intercession. This is a group of people, no matter how large, that come in and say, I want to be a part of this team. There's a little bit of figuring out, hey, this is who's on it, who can be on it, just getting to know you a little bit, but it can be a very large group that are committed on a daily basis to pray for those requests. And one of the things we're working on, and we think we can do it, I'm just going to say it and believe it to be true, is that that person who submits that prayer request at the end of the day or end of a few days gets an email and says, 87 people prayed for you. That's the kind of feedback and kind of mobilization that we want. Somebody said, if we set out a number, what if nobody prays? Then shame on us. Those are opt-in. The thing is on your card. If you go to calvarylg.com/prayer, sign up. Be a part of what we want to do. Secondly, back in March, we launched an idea of an annual project. This is something outside of ourselves. This is something we want to do to make a difference, maybe in a neighborhood, in another place across the world, something that had a beginning and an end in each year. So it's outside of ourselves, something that we can realize. This year, we wanted to fulfill a commitment that we started 14 years ago. It's a relationship with a community in Ethiopia, where we committed to sponsoring these kids and sponsoring them who are young adults now and pouring in to help them build an IGA, which is an income-generating activity, so that they can be self-sustaining. Their IGA that they've discovered and be a part of is a dairy that they can have jobs, provide for the community, and that they themselves don't become dependent on anybody else. We have had teams over the years go, and we did this again last month, and our team saw a few things. One, a proof of concept in another village where it was working fabulously, where this village started with 3 cows 14 months ago, and now they have 6 cows, and 5 of them are pregnant, so soon to be 11 cows. Kids, I'm not going to explain how that happens. And they are producing 30 liters of milk per day. And while the cows have nowhere to roam, so that these cows are basically living in the neighborhood, the government was so moved by that, they have given land for this to happen. The government gave land. So that should sink in. Like, when's the last time government gave you land? The government gave land for this to happen. If you go to calvarylg.com/Ethiopia, you can see the pictures, you can see the development, all these things. The total need for this project we presented in March was $32,000 to launch this IGA. So far, $22,827 has been given, just $9,173 remaining. We can do this. All right. Like I said, we have some great photos and updates from our recent trip on this site as well. It will visually help you see some of the things that you can be a part of. The link is on that card. That, too, is being part of a mobilized church. The third thing we talked about was being a storytelling church. Telling things that are happening in our lives. We launched that night by having 25 people across our stage tell 1-minute stories, 2 minutes. Some of them are longer than that, but we're good to launch this. If you've paid attention, and if you've been here on time, you will know that we start almost every service with a story. Like you heard today from Aiden. That this is in the very core of who we are. We have this gathering called This Is Us. This Is Us is a gathering for newer people where we have dinner around a table in somebody's home. The last one we just had, maybe 12 people were there. Unbeknownst to the host, I said, come in, tell us your story. He told us his story. It was so moving that this gathering of new people, there was tears flowing. And they're like, I don't know why I'm doing this. We then went on the table, and I said, would anybody like to share their story? And every single couple that night just shared something about their life or an individual, because they weren't all couples. Because storytelling is powerful, and storytelling moves people. This is truly being a conduit of the kingdom of God in you. We've also recorded some amazing stories. And the short version of these stories will be released on our podcast channel this week. If you're not on our podcast, I would encourage you to sign up for it, and you'll start to hear these amazing stories of people. And I need a lot more. It's not scary. Okay, it might be a little scary. I record you, we talk, we edit it down. It's beautiful. If you go to calvarylg.com/podcasts, and I know there's so many more of you who have a story, this too is being a conduit of the kingdom of God. If you want to tell your story, or you're willing to tell your story, I will tell you the handful that I've done so far, almost every single time the person gets to the parking lot and sits in their car for a while. And they say to me, I almost didn't come in. And then they share, and they're like, if nothing happens because of this, it's okay, because that was the value in itself. And then there's one more. And I'm going to land here for a few minutes because I have a big ask. Campus development was our fourth one. We pull back even to the night in 2024 in our night of vision and prayer. We're talking about how vital it is that people feel a sense of belonging. I don't know how you feel, but the news tells us that there's an epidemic going on of loneliness and a value that is being missed of feeling like people belong. And we realize this is not only through relationships and events, but also to create spaces where people feel like they can belong, where people experience authentic hospitality, and we want to consider how to utilize this property to do that. So a team was made up of members to go on a prayerful discovery process of what our options could be, what we could do, and ultimately what God is leading us to do in order to maximize our hospitality to our town and to our community. They were commissioned to come up with a plan for our campus to be a place where people wanted to experience belonging, a place they feel like they are included, no matter if they attended or didn't attend. They finished their year-long work. They presented it to the elders maybe in April. As a group, the elders presented it to the members in June. And then we presented it to all of you who desired and were willing to click a link and watch it shortly after. Images and vision and values are out in the lobby that Danny put together. It is fantastic, and it is beautiful. And we are at a time where the dream needs some fuel. The good news is that our church property is not the outside lands. It is a beautiful space of 75 plus years of ministry here in Los Gatos. But there's still a part of envisioning what could be and not just what is. But in order for this to happen, we all need to approach the outside lands the same way they did, is to simply give from what we have and to give the very best from what we have. Let me explain. All the advice that I have been given and that I have seen as far as in regards to giving fuel to a project includes hiring an expert from somewhere else, coming in and deciding this is what your church can give, but don't tell anybody, and then you go and do some things. There's a quiet phase of our project where you go to the most influential people in your church, usually the richest people in your church, because that's what we do. You're influential because you're rich, and you go to them and hope to get them on your side, and you go, can you do this? Can you partner? Because if you give, it's going to motivate other people to give. They call this the quiet phase. Well, my problem is we weren't very quiet. Because there's a public launch that once you have all this influential people behind you and this money in place, that you then say, church, give because these people gave. Because we've been loudly communicating all along the way, and because I just, at my deepest heart, as your friend, and as your pastor, and as someone who journeys with you, so desperately just wanted to do this differently, which I had to challenge myself because I didn't want to do something differently just because that's kind of how I'm wired. And I told my friend, I told people and stuff, if this sounds crazy, you think I'm just doing something different because that's how I am, tell me. And they're like, well, that's a little bit of what's happening. But no, Dale, we get it. There's something different here. Like I said, the advice I've gotten from people outside of here, say, go to the significant people and ask them in private. But my friends, I'm keeping this public. Right now, we have $0 in this account because I have not asked. So instead of separating, categorizing, prioritizing people based on the potential size of their gift, I'm coming to everybody. If you call Calvary home, everyone who can give something significant. And what's significant? Giving from what you have. Because that's every single person. Because it's not the amount that shows whether you're valuable or significant, but it's simply the space from what we're giving from. It's about giving your best gift simply from what you have been given. There's a very incredible story in the Bible where Jesus talks about the kind of gift that has the greatest value. As Jesus looked up, he saw the rich putting their gifts into the temple treasury. He also saw a poor widow put in 2 very small copper coins. Truly, I tell you, he said, this poor widow has put in more than all the others. All these people gave their gifts out of their wealth, but she gave out of her poverty, and she put in all she had to live on. That story just says, you know how you make heaven sit up and take notice? You let go. In this room, and I know some of you are like super uncomfortable right now because when we talk about money, it just makes people go, ugh. You know why? I think you know why. I'll move on. There's a variety of people. There's people in this room who lean on an allowance every week. I know that's like way old-fashioned. Some kids get an allowance, and you're like, man, I only get $50 a month. My dad's in here, so he knows this is true. My allowance was $0.05 a week, so suck it up. So what I would do was let it add up, and I got 20 cents at one shot, and I rode my bike and bought a pack of baseball cards with that thin stick of gum, which was so gross. But there are some in this room of small age, you're just leaning on your allowance. You're like, what do I have? You have some. But there's also people in this room whose stocks hold a financial value that could provide for many, many, many generations after them. But you're in love with the number on the piece of paper. There's people in this room that are teachers, and that you work from a place of selfless love, and some of you even maybe take a second job in the summer just for some extra income. And then there's everybody in between of all walks of life. All those people are in the room now, and every single one of you are significant. I want you to hear that. And by no means do I want to place a heavy burden, guilt, anything. All I want to do is be biblical. And being biblical is giving from what we have. Because deep in my heart, I just want us to do this differently. I want this to be a process that we can all be proud of and that we're excited to be a part of. I want every person in this room, from the middle schooler and younger to the person very late in life, to be able to say, the account was bare, my pastor came to me because I could be someone significant. I was the first person that they came to, because it's all important. And just as there's variety of level of finances in this room, there's also varying opinions about money in church. And there's varying opinions of pastors who talk about money. And some of you right now are like, I knew it, Dale was hiding something. No, I am not. Here's a few things I just want to say from my heart to you. And if you're brand new, this is this might feel like, what are they talking about? This is just me. This is what we do. Few things. Lisa and I give selflessly like all of you. I have never, before God and before people who know, asked for the church to give to something that we did not give to as well. We are not excluded from this. This is saying we are with you. When I say things, I'm saying it to myself. Secondly, there are 2,350 verses in the Bible about money, possessions, and wealth. And did you know that 15% of Jesus' teaching was around the use of money? So I'm actually quite concerned about churches or pastors who ignore that much of the Bible altogether. We've created a generosity course for this very reason, and I want to encourage you to dive in and to watch it. It'll show you some things. And 3, and this one feels very significant and very vulnerable. As much as I can tell, at the beginning of this year, in a quiet moment in my office, in a moment of my own frustration, in my own moment of trying to manufacture some things, I heard the words, almost audibly, throw your net on the other side of the boat. It's in reference to the story in the Bible where the disciples, before they were disciples, had fished all night. Do you know this story? Had caught nothing. Jesus is yelling from the shore, hey, throw your net on the other side of the boat. And they're like, who is this crazy man? But they did. And so much fish came in, it broke the nets. So sometime early in the year, I wrote on my glass board, throw your net on the other side of the boat. And I've always wondered, what does that mean, God? What does that mean, God? And it could mean all sorts of things. But as I got closer to this and closer to this, I realized I have to throw my net on the other side of the boat. Because if I didn't, I would be in disobedience. So this is me trying. I'm throwing my net on the other side of the boat. I'm coming to you all. I'm talking about money in the biggest public gathering we've had all year to brand new people, but God has asked me to do that. The cost of this project is huge. The funding scenario is $16.2 million cost. We have a rear parking lot that we're in the process of putting in the market. I'll briefly update in a minute. That's got valued at $7.5 million, which means $8.7 million for our church. That seems like outside lands to me. But I'm asking everyone who calls Calvary home, to make your best gift that launches this project from what you have. And maybe even this fulfills the project. The goal is for 100% of us to make a gift. Some of you have the ability to give a gift that was significantly more digits than others. It might be a legacy gift. You don't have to die before you can make a difference. I didn't think that was going to be funny, but as I was saying it, Some of you have the ability to make a sizable gift that makes a noticeable dent. Some of you may want to give a pledge over time, but that's not today. Today's challenge is for all of us to give from what we have over the next 36 days. I can envision kids and families figuring out ways of how they can say, what do we have? There's an amazing thing called Facebook Marketplace, where you invite strangers into your home and sell them things. Parents, while your kids are away at school, just say, come on over, make an offer on everything they have. I'm just kidding, kind of. I can envision some of you maybe rethinking your current flexible expenses and setting aside what you have to give. I can imagine maybe some of you meeting with a financial advisor and they're like, what the heck do you want to do? It's an opportunity to talk about kingdom generosity. I can imagine all of us talking to God, listening for him to talk to us, and us talking to each other. So we have a target date for September 30th. On October 5th, we'll announce and to say this is our story so far. If you go to calvarylg.com/campus, you can do that. Final few closing words. What I will tell you is that we have found amazing favor even in this process of going to experts, engineers, architects. We have over and over and over people who have nothing to even do with this job say, I love what you guys are doing. There's one story where Danny and some others were in this with this business and maybe engineering. I forget exactly what business, but they came across this one lady who isn't even going to be a part of our job. She said, I don't go to your church. I live in Los Gatos. I am so excited for what you guys are trying to do. That's the kind of favor. We're now trying to build the same kind of favor with the town, where we go and say, this is what we're trying to do, and get everything settled at the same time. We're in the process of the back parking lot. We will keep you updated on all of that. But to wrap it up, we are a church that is building for now, building for the future, and building for belonging. That is what we desire to do. When there were simply outside lands, some gave trees, some gave seed, some gave manure, but they gave from what they had. And a great desert turned into a park filled with life and people and art and a place to call home. And a place was prepared for all. So this morning, seeds have been thrown to be a church that's mobilized, to be a church that tells stories, to be a church that makes a difference outside of itself, and what is possible when we all come together and give from what we have. But transformation is already starting to take place. Because remember, his purpose in life wasn't just to get you to heaven, but was to get heaven inside of you. So what if we as a church said, we are going to live the kingdom of God right now, right here, in this space. It's been a full morning, a good morning, celebrating baptism, celebrating what God has done, celebrating what God can do. And I think my hope is that some seeds were planted. Sometimes we get a seed and we go, that's just the beginning. Let it germinate, let it flow, see what God wants to do. And the party continues because we got some legit barbecue out there. Like, they've been working and working and working. Go and enjoy, but let me pray this over. May God bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you and give you peace. May the same spirit that rose Christ from the dead be alive and well in you. In his name, amen. God bless you. See you out on the lawn eating some good food.